Hi, my name is Bart Farrell, and I'm an American who's been living in the Basque Country for the last 4 years. I'm going to talk to you today about 3 loves. 1 is for the love for a person, 2 is for the love for a place, and 3 is through that place, the love for humanity. So the first love starts out 6 years ago when I was living in Egypt and studying Arabic. I met someone who happened to be from the Basque Country, which before I never knew that the Basque Country even existed. I didn't know about your culture, about your food, about your sports, about your crazy, very, very old language. Did not know about that. This person's name is Maite, which means beloved in Basque. I feel like I was lucky enough to have been born to love her. After living in Egypt for a year, I moved to the West Bank, where I lived there for 3 months. Then Maite and I moved to London, where we lived for a year, where we both got master's degrees. After that, we moved to the Basque Country. When I came here, I didn't know Spanish, I definitely didn't know Euskera, so I had a lot to learn in terms of meeting people and understanding the culture and how everything is. Something that I realized very quickly is how Basque people are often very proud of where they're from and very happy about where they live most of the time, but a lot of times they assume that things in the United States must be better, that it's strange that an American would want to live in a place like this because the United States must be more developed and more advanced and all these different kinds of things. And I've had to explain to people many times, which is why I want to explain to you, why that's not necessarily the case. While the U.S. does have many things that are great and wonderful about it, it's kind of ridiculous that the U.S. is always called the land of opportunity, because it's certainly not the land of equal opportunity. Just ask Native Americans, African Americans, Latino Americans, or all the other Americans who are socioeconomically marginalized if they feel like they have the same opportunities as everyone else. I would say for things like education and healthcare that the Basque Country has many more equal opportunities in terms of providing access to people no matter how much money they have. Another thing that you have to remember is that even though the Basque Country has a bit of a bad reputation for violence because of the violent conflict within the last 40 years, in which around 1,000 people unfortunately lost their lives, if you look at any major population in the United States, like a major city like Chicago that has pretty much the same population as the Basque Country, around that many people will die in 2 years related to homicides, right? I'm talking about gang-related, gun-related, drug-related deaths, as well as the fact that if you look at almost every week in the news in the United States, there are shootings that are happening at schools, at churches, and at people's jobs, so people are actually running the risk of losing their life just by going to these 3 basic places. It's not just that risk, it's knowing that it could happen to anybody. That's not the kind of place where I want to be living. Another thing, which is much more positive, is thinking about, okay, the food here, it is incredible. Not so much in terms of international variety and options, but there's no denying the fact that not just because of the high concentration of Michelin star restaurants, but the traditional food here is hostia. You have amazing ingredients, high quality, natural products that provide for amazing food. Another thing that I see through that is that people here really know how to enjoy the little things, the simple pleasures in life that really count, whether it's going to the mountains whenever you can, or spending time with your friends just to have a quick coffee, or really enjoying the simple, small things is what really makes a difference, and knowing how to live in the moment. Another thing that's great is that I don't have a car, I don't want a car, and I don't need a car. In the United States, it's impossible. Here, I have everything within 200 meters of my house, within walking distance, whether it's public transportation, a doctor's office, a grocery store, etc. It's amazing. It's something that really provides a high quality of life. Another thing that you have to remember is that people often think about the fact that, yes, there are many millionaires in the United States, but there are also many, many more homeless people per capita. You see what my best friend refers to as a much higher ceiling, but a much lower floor. Here in the Basque Country, people refuse to tolerate suffering. If they see someone in need, they help them out. Which is why how I refer to my friends here, who are more like my extended family, they're the kind of people who we say in English that would give you the shirt off their backs or the last euro that they have in their pockets just to help you out and make sure that you're not in trouble. This is the kind of stuff that I'm talking about that makes this place such a high quality of life. When you look at the kind of suffering that people have to go through in the U.S., and you look at the intolerance of that suffering here, for me that really reflects the love of humanity, which goes back to the love of this place and goes back to the love of the person, which is why I came here. So if you think about it this way, the next time you see some cultural image, whether it's in a film or a TV series from the U.S., and you feel like, oh wow, they have it so good and everything must be better there, remember, you are lucky to have been born here or that you happen to live here. It's an amazing place. Take care of this place. This is our responsibility to make this the best place possible. I know that I feel extremely lucky to be part of this project, and I want you to feel that as well too. Coming from an American who supposedly is from the greatest place in the world, you have a great place to live in as well. And thank you so much for sharing it with me.